Welcome to the Thriving Tides podcast. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Julianne. If you're an entrepreneur or busy individual looking for self-care ideas, you're in the right place.
And we can't wait to share our experiences with you.
So we're back here for another episode of Thriving Tides.
Woo!
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Steph, did you want to start this one off today?
Did I want to start this one off today? Well, is it too late now to say sorry?
Okay, I take it back. I'm going.
You're welcome, folks, for my singing.
I just had to start with an apology. And I knew you wanted to sing that song to us. I couldn't help it. Yes, I will admit I did not know what it was because I'm not a big Biebs fan, but it came to me once you sang it to me. So thank you for the serenading.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So we're here today to talk about saying sorry.
Saying sorry.
And apologizing all the time, whether or not it's warranted. I think more often it's not. Mm-hmm. And it's just such a habit that many, many people have in their vocabulary.
And it's kind of become a really bad habit in a sense, too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, it's how people say like, or literally, or, those things that people just becomes like that filler word for them. I think sorry is like one of those too.
Yeah, totally.
It's really interesting. Yeah. And that just kind of like clicked for me as you were saying that. So I think, saying sorry, I don't know, it like comes up in so many different ways. So, and it's written language, spoken language, no matter what we're doing, we feel like we're almost even just like apologizing for our presence.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that wild?
That's wild. And you don't realize you're doing it half the time. Like we're so conditioned to say sorry, especially when we're younger.
Yes.
We're told always to apologize to Johnny over there, like it's, you're kind of conditioned to always say sorry, especially as women too. I'm sure we'll probably get into that. Yeah. But I feel like there's a certain sense that we're always conditioned to always apologize for being ourselves.
Oh,
why is that?
That's heavy. Yeah, like it's unbelievable. We apologize for showing up. We apologize for being late. We apologize for calling someone. Like everything that we do, you probably would find someone who apologizes for doing that action.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Wow.
I think at one point you called me out here on the podcast too for even apologizing for telling a story. Like, I'm sorry, I'm getting personal. Why am I saying sorry? I'm on a podcast. Of course,
that's what we're here.
That's what
for.
We're doing. And here I am apologizing for myself, and you were like, "Steph, why are you apologizing? There's no point of it."
Absolutely, and it's you already mentioned like we're women and. Sometimes gender plays a factor in that too. We're also Canadian. So like if you talk to anyone from any other country, they just think, oh, you guys are so polite and you always say sorry.
Yeah. Funny story on that. When I was living in Australia, they always could tell that I was from Canada and not from the USA because I did say A. And I didn't think I said A. I thought that was a silly trope. But they also said that I was constantly saying sorry. And so I always thought that was just kind of like a self-labeled thing that us Canadians say that we always say sorry. But it's like known around the world that we say sorry and that we're apologetic. And I was just kind of like, oh, I didn't even think... I don't think I say sorry that much until I actually like look back and I'm like, oh, maybe I do say... sorry way too much, and I know I do.
Well, and when you're with people who also do it or who are just so ingrained in hearing it all of the time, they probably don't notice it.
Oh,
right.
Totally.
So then you pull yourself out of this country, go to Australia where that's not the norm. Not to say that they're rude, they just don't apologize.
No,
like we do here. So of course they're going to call you out on it, which is so interesting.
Yeah. So just my little takeaway from the sorry and being in Australia.
Yeah. Like someone bumps into you and what's the first thing you say?
Sorry.
Yeah. You were just standing there.
I got in the way.
Yeah, I was in the way because of my presence.
Yeah.
I'm just here and you ran into me and I'm the one who's sorry for it. Like, it's so wild that we do it.
Yeah.
And like, so that happens obviously in just like day-to-day life if you're waiting in line somewhere or something like that. But I think apologizing comes up very often in our professional careers as well. And that can be a really huge hindrance on moving forward or getting the respect that you're really looking for, because you're really diminishing your value by apologizing for your presence.
Exactly. Who's going to want to pay for someone that's not really confident in themselves?
Right.
In a way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like some of the ways that I think about saying sorry or when I've done it is like starting an email. I'm sorry to bother you. That's like,
I'm sorry for the delay, but yeah.
Right? I'm so embarrassed at how many times that's probably happened for me. And it's just something that we need to be able to learn to catch ourselves on. Because another thing it's not sorry, but it's related. So I'm bringing it in. The word just.
Yes.
When I'm writing emails, because you might say, I'm just checking in to see what's going on, or I'm just checking in on the status, whatever. Putting that word just in is kind of like an apology too, right? You're like softening that blow or whatever, where like, what's wrong with saying like, I'm checking in on the status of this project.
Yeah.
It's direct. It's not rude, but it is just what you're trying to get across. And I just said just again right there, right? Like it's such a natural thing. I know when I'm writing, it still comes out of me, but then I can backspace it.
Well, and that one's kind of one that isn't as known too, like the just, because I'm noticing that more and more that the culture is starting to be like, hey, don't say sorry. Like the reason why we're talking about this is because we've seen a couple people share about over apologizing, but you don't see the just one as often.
Yeah, it's a little like, I think it's like a cousin to the sorry maybe, but a less known cousin.
Yeah.
So we're going to give it a little bit of a spotlight here too, because I do believe that also makes you sound insecure, or that you're trying not to bother someone. It may even get coupled with a sorry. It might be like, hey, sorry to bug you. I'm just checking in to see da-da-da-da-da. Right? Yeah. So I think they kind of go hand in hand. So I would definitely encourage people to take a look and see where they're saying or writing just also. Yeah. This came up for me probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And now every time I write it, I'm like, oh, I did it again.
But that's the nice thing with email. Is that you can look it over.
Yes. You should look it over before sending, especially if it's, work.
Yeah.
But, anywho. Calling someone too, like I think that's another way that we apologize, oh, sorry to bother you, or, popping into your boss's office, things like that. Hey, sorry, is this a good time? Like it's just,
I'm sorry, is this a good time to do my job right now?
Right? Hi.
Yeah.
Sorry to bug you. Sorry to be here. Sorry. It's wild.
Are you sorry for hiring me yet? Sorry.
Right? Yeah. I'll give you something to be sorry about.
Yeah. Oh man.
It's wild, but like the things that come up is like, and I kind of mentioned it already, is like you sound so insecure.
Yeah.
Right? So it's you're like, do I have the right to be here right now?
Exactly. And again, we always tell you how you were saying with like how it affects your professional. I can always see it in the sense of my clients now. That probably also loses their trust in how I can actually do the project if I'm apologizing for my project already, even though I haven't even done anything. And that kind of lit it up for me, because I am confident in my work. I do know what I'm doing, and I am really proud of my work, and like I know what I'm doing. I went to school. So why is it that I feel the need to over apologize sometimes? And I know I definitely have the sorry syndrome, but it's not from a lack of confidence in my professional life. It's like a lack of confidence for myself that now overlaps into my work life. And that breaks my heart, because I know that I can do the job and I'm good at what I do, but because my lack of confidence in myself it's now bleeding into my work life, perhaps, which that really hurts, that like that could possibly be hindering my reputation. I once started a workshop with, I'm sorry, I need to, and then I went off to why I was saying I was sorry.
Wow.
And now that I look back on that since doing the research for this episode, I'm just like, did anyone actually take me seriously during that rest of the workshop, the full hour?
I'm sure they did.
Well, I was gonna say,
I'm sure they got lots of good out of it.
It was a pretty big workshop, but yeah, like even doing things like that, why did I feel the need to apologize for existing?
Right. And oftentimes, like, so thinking about your example of your presentation that you were doing, like, I don't know exactly what you're apologizing for, but sometimes we'll apologize that a slide is incorrect or it's different than we were planning to. Well, you're standing at the front of the room as the expert and as the one who's doing the presentation, and the people who are there to absorb it and learn from you don't have any clue what was supposed to be there or what's not supposed to be there. And you're then apologizing for something internally, right? So it's just that insecurity really coming up and saying like, here I am and I don't think I'm good enough. And that makes me sad to hear you say that, you know, your self-esteem can come in and impact your own work.
Yeah.
You are your brand now too, right? So like maybe when you were working for other people, it was a little bit different, but now like when you're an entrepreneur, there's that blurred line of like, who am I and who's my business and where does that kind of, there really is no divide anymore.
It's so true. I'll actually tell you what I was apologizing for. I just remembered.
Please do.
So I was apologizing because I needed to look at my notes during the whole presentation because it was an hour-long presentation, but every time I practiced it, I went over like I got close to 2 hours every time because I kept going off in tangents because it was talking about social media, which I love and I can go on tangents. So I said, I'm sorry, I need to look at my presentation because I don't want to go off on tangents because I'm really passionate about what I do. So like I kind of like said sorry, but then also I knew that it was wrong to say sorry. So I tried to backhand it with but I'm really good at it.
Right. Yeah.
Because I was so scared that people were going to judge me for looking at my notes, you know? And it's so crazy to me because I totally had confidence in myself in the workshop, but because I said that, and I guaranteed when I was doing the workshop, it's been a while since I did this workshop, but guaranteed I felt even more nervous after I apologized, you know?
Right. Well, and then you put it out there like, here's my biggest insecurity is that I'm going to go over the time. Yeah. And now I've outed myself with an apology. So it's like double whammy on yourself. Exactly. And of course, then that's in the back of your head the whole time. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. And have you done it since?
Well, I haven't done a workshop since. It was like, and I've done that workshop now, oh my gosh, like so many times that I don't need. But it was like the first time, and it was probably one of the biggest workshops like in attendance that I've ever done too. Like that was huge for me because I was also nervous on a different level for not only for people judging me, but then also the insecurity of like, what if there's a lot of people that were in my industry there, you know, and I'm like, they're going to call me out because they think I don't know what I'm talking about. Right. Again, it's that imposter syndrome, which I know we're probably going to talk about soon, but
sooner than later, I think.
Exactly. So like that imposter syndrome was like, oh, you need to apologize because you definitely should not be in this position right now. I don't know why. I know what I'm doing. So
yeah, that's one of the big things too. Like lack of confidence makes us want to apologize. And when we do so, then we give away our power too, right? So it's like just to keep going with the same example, you were hired to do something that you're an expert in and that people see you as an expert in, but you're then like, oh, these other people sitting, like, what if they know something that I don't? Or, you know, like different things could have been coming up for you. So it's just like, okay, I'm just going to apologize for being or for how I'm being right now. And there could have been someone in there that was like so excited to see you and was like, she's the bee's knees. Yeah. And then is like, oh, okay. You know, like not to say that they did, but it's just so easy for that to flip the switch and for people to see like, okay, maybe they're not as confident in what they do and whatnot. But this is life. This is what we do. And it, like I said, it's just that natural.
I was going to say, and I'm not the only one. We actually did do a poll as well.
Yeah.
And only one person said no.
Right? Yeah.
Out of
crazy.
like, I think there was six or eight people that said yes last we checked. So
of how many people say sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, so this is definitely
You're
not just
alone.
me. Oh, thank goodness.
Oh, yeah. It's wild. And, you know, of those people, even who either, you know, didn't respond or I bet a lot more do.
Oh,
and
definitely.
don't realize it.
Oh, yeah. They don't think that they do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they're in their own heads. Because again, it's one of those things that, again, we're so conditioned that we don't realize that we're doing it sometimes when we are doing it until someone else calls you out. Like that time you called me out. Yeah. I didn't even realize I was saying sorry until you said that.
Yeah.
Right?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Crazy.
I think sometimes too, like what we're doing when we're apologizing is looking for external validation. So you, and this is like subconsciously too, right? So you might say like, oh, I'm sorry, or sorry for telling this story. And it's like, no, Steph, I want to hear that story from you, please. You know, it's like you want someone to step up and give you that security that you don't have internally. Like, does that resonate with you?
Totally. Because, you don't want to put yourself out there and just be like, oh, who cares? Right. But then if you're saying, oh, yeah, I do like that you're telling me this because this is good. Yeah. And I do want to hear it.
I do want it.
And like even as friends, too, I'm sure sometimes I know I definitely have said, I'm sorry, I'm venting. And instead, I should be.
You've said that to me a few times.
So many times.
And I didn't even recognize that until you just said it. And I'm like, that is usually what you say is, I'm sorry, I'm venting.
Because I feel bad that I'm putting that burden on you. But in reality, you're my friend. Yeah. And I should just thank you for, you know, allowing me to just have a little vent.
Yeah. You always thank me afterwards.
I do, yeah.
Make it sound like Steph vents all the time.
I was going to say, I'm not that, like...
I think I'm just one of her main vent people, though.
Yes.
Which is great.
Yeah.
That means I'm a good friend. Oh, goodness. What do you think has conditioned you so much to say sorry? Like, where do you think that's come from for you?
To be honest, I really don't know. There's a couple things that I think, again, as you grow up, things happen, you know. I do know probably a big thing is when I started working in like it a lot. I worked in the customer service industry, and in that industry, you're told to apologize for everything.
The customer is always right.
The customer is always right. And then you know, on top of it, when you start looking at other things in my past, I worked in a lot of male dominated, and there's already kind of this weird trying to find my voice. For some reason, again, us women do feel it's just statistically shown that women do say sorry more than men. I always would say sorry for my presence, and I don't know why. And I think another factor is that in branding, too, you're taught to always be, you know, the best to your customers. And it's still the same thing. Customer's always right. So for me, I'd rather say sorry in hopes that I don't damage the relationship, even though technically I am damaging the relationship. Like, that doesn't make sense in my own. Now that I say it out loud, I'm like, that doesn't even make sense, Steph. But
it does in the moment.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I think I'm doing what's best for my business. But it's not at all.
Yeah.
And that's why I've stopped saying sorry.
That's why I'm stopping.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair. What are ways, so you say that you're stopping. Yes. How are you doing that? Like what are some tools or tricks for the other over apologizers that are listening right now? What has worked for you?
Well, I'm sure you have more, but what I've been doing for myself that I have kind of noticed some success is actually first and foremost realizing how much you say it. So kind of like what you're doing with your spreadsheet and your data. Like I would actually consciously remember when I would say sorry and I would start telling it. I think I averaged at least like 8 to 9 times I would say sorry. But then I also started tallying how much James would say sorry, my husband. And he rarely says sorry. You know, like
I thought you were gonna be like, he says sorry just as much as me.
No, he like, and again, he would never say sorry, and unless like he actually had a reason to be apologetic. And that's the thing too. If you are actually in fault, you should say sorry.
Yes, there are times where this is needed. Yeah,
but like he would never say sorry like I do in passing. You know what I mean? And that was just kind of like okay, that's what I'm realizing, that I do this bad habit. So then once you realize you do the bad habit, so I would take the next step of telling people. So you naturally already do this for me, which was really great. I try to do it with James. I do need to tell more people that I'm not saying sorry. But the biggest thing that I've had for myself is actually writing like a little Post-it note on my desk. And it literally says, don't say sorry. And then like I don't have it anymore, but I did actually print out one of those like sheets that says alternatives to saying sorry, which I think is really great. I loved that. And so I do have that like on the side of my monitor, and it's breaking that habit, right? By seeing when you're doing that habit and then being, oh no, I need to take a step back and do this instead.
I love that. Those are like some of the favorite things that I would coach someone on to change any type of habit, right? Like a visual that's like really in your face and reminds you of what that thing is that you're working on. It's huge. Like we always need something to like trigger that, especially if we're trying to drop something.
Exactly.
Or add something in, either way. So I think that's really cool. And having alternatives at your fingertips too, so that if you're like, oh, what am I? But then what do I say? So when I go to say sorry, like what do I replace that with? I can't just say nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really cool.
I was like, because when you're so used to saying sorry or saying you don't realize, then what do you say in place of it? So it really does help. Another thing, I was going to mention it later, but I'm just going to mention it now because it's the boss. There's
Your
actually, it's this plugin called Just Not Sorry. And I'm pretty sure you can use it for like Gmail, Outlook, most mail systems. And it is awesome. I downloaded it like the other day. It's just like Chrome extension. And it is awesome because what it does is all it does is underline when you're saying sorry, or when you're saying, I'm no expert, or I just.
Oh, it catches all that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Oh,
those are the three
incredible.
that I've seen.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any more that they have in like their algorithm thing, but it's awesome because it underlines it to be like, hey, this is not a good, and even when you hover over it, it tells you why it's not a good thing.
So does it see it like in what context you're using it as well?
I think it's literally just
if you were like, I'm so sorry that your dog died. Like that's obviously okay to say.
Yeah.
But if you're like, I'm sorry, I'm getting this to you later than planned or something, like.
I'm pretty sure it still underlines it, but like it obviously when you send,
brings it to your attention.
Exactly. So then you have to kind of use your discretion if you're actually supposed to be sorry.
You're still the final.
Yeah. And I think
I didn't know that kind of stuff existed.
Right?
So cool.
That's just the research for this podcast. That's why I'm really excited that we're doing this podcast, because I'm finding all these cool plugins and apps and stuff. But it's so great, especially if you are more inclined to apologize over email, and that's where I apologize the most. So it's like perfect, anything to make my life easier. That's so awesome. I have Post-it note plugin.
So if anybody working with Steph and she's apologizing,
call me out.
Call her out on it. That's so cool. And you communicate with most of your clients through email, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Yep. Yeah.
Oh,
that's so neat.
Right?
Technology, man.
Right?
It's a wonderful thing at times.
Exactly.
So neat. I love it. Yeah, I think making it easy is always key, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's what we want.
Going back to the habits episode. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Make it easy.
Yes.
Make it, like, if you're not a Post-it person and you don't like Post-it notes, then don't put it on the Post-it note. But if you are a technology person and you need that in-app reminder, then do the plugin. Do
both.
Do both. Do all the things, especially if you are like me and had the sorry syndrome. Because I will say, I do think I'm past the sorry syndrome. Especially I've gotten more confident in myself since starting the podcast. So I'm just like, I don't really don't need to say sorry anymore.
I'm not apologizing for being me. Tell it, sister. Love it. So cool. Yeah, it's that's so cool. I'm just happy.
So do you find
that one in?
I like that. Do you find that you say sorry a lot, or do you think that just because you're naturally, you coach people in it now, that you are already aware to not say sorry?
I'm sure it comes up at times where it doesn't need to be. I would say probably more so in my personal life, though.
Okay.
Just because, like, it, you know, with my professional life, like if I'm doing something written, like an email or something like that, like I am very particular on how I write it and whatever. And I always take time to like read through it. And I'm trying to think, like, if I'm talking to someone in person, I might say it a little bit, but I would say, yeah, probably more so in my personal life, and probably even more so like with Dave, maybe.
Yeah.
Just silly little things that I need to start catching myself on. Just like, oh, sorry, did you want to do that? Or, you know, sorry, I didn't do the dishes yet. Or, you know, just silly things that, like, I'm not actually sorry that I didn't do the dishes. I probably was wishing you would just do them.
Just kind of hoping you take care of that. Hint, hint, Dave.
No, he actually does them way more than I do.
Yeah.
I need to do them more. I'm getting better. He told me the other day. But yeah, I think like I never try to say that I'm like this perfect being just because I'm a coach, because I have my flaws as well. But I don't think that sorry is one of my strong flaws. Certainly would come up at times, but I think I've gotten it under control. But I remember back to like being brand new in the corporate environment, being a young, very driven female who didn't really know how to fit into this world and what that looks like. And I would often like have lots of questions, things like that. And it was usually like an older male that I'd have to go and like ask questions to, stuff like that. So I think I would feel that was that need to apologize for interrupting them, or apologize for taking time, or, you know, even if you're like 2 minutes late for a meeting, you're like, oh, I'm so sorry that I'm late. But it's just like, I've been in back-to-back meetings for 7 hours and I, you know, had to go 10 floors difference to get here. When one meeting ends at 4 and the next one starts at 4, well, that can make things challenging.
Yeah.
So I think it's certainly something that all of us would go through at some point in our lives, and hopefully learn to catch it.
Yeah.
But we do have some ways to help with that too.
So as entrepreneurs, what do you think, Julianne, that we shouldn't be apologizing for also?
That's a big one. I think this is where we see a lot of that like imposter syndrome come up, or that like it's scary, right? Being an entrepreneur is scary, and something that I really loved when I was doing my kind of notes, and this probably was even a big inspiration for this episode as it is this article by Leanne Davey, who I'm connected with on LinkedIn. And Lisa and I actually did a little video for her in 2020. Wow. We can say that now. Weird.
Whoa.
But she is just such an amazing thought leader in so many different ways. Like, she's into like leadership communication. I'm not even going to list all the things because I'll miss some of them. But she wrote this great article called When Not to Apologize.
Oh, okay.
And it's really directed towards leaders, but I think entrepreneurs can really grab onto this too. And one of the first ones was, don't apologize for taking calculated risks.
Oh, I like that.
And yeah, like as entrepreneurs, we should be taking risks.
Yeah.
Right? Like not just like willy-nilly doing crazy things just to see what sticks. And often we're like, usually the issue is that we're not taking enough risks, not that we're taking too big of ones, I think, too.
I was going to say, what defines a calculated risk? Like, what would be an example of a calculated risk?
So
would it be buying the laptop, the expensive laptop?
Could be.
I'm sorry that I did this to my visa.
Yeah, right. Could be spending all that money on podcast equipment, not knowing if we're going to go anywhere with this.
Yeah.
It could be launching a brand new product out to the market, that, you know, you've done your, maybe you've even done your market research, everything, right? Because it's that we're saying calculated risk here.
Yeah.
But you still don't know exactly how it's going to land.
Yeah.
There's so many different things that we could be doing. Could be investing in a new property. It could be going into a partnership with somebody.
Though I wonder if that's, because I'm just trying to picture it from a standpoint of someone that does do calculated risks. Would it be more so apologizing to yourself?
Could be.
Because I'm just thinking, like,
Yeah.
for example, like right now I'm apologizing to myself and like my family members for diverting things. You know?
Yeah.
Could that be?
Absolutely.
I'm just curious because
I love this. It's the more like real life example we can attach it to, the better we can like really dive in and understand it, right? So yeah, you've made some changes recently where, you know, you're no longer with the startup zone.
Yeah.
So that there's a loss of income
Yeah.
in one area, but creating space for you to be doing other things. And at this point, you know, it may not be just like click,
Yeah.
we're there. So that's a calculated risk that you're taking, that you thought about it. It wasn't just you woke up one morning and was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
But you don't know where it's going to go. And you and James need to figure out what that looks like as a partnership, as a couple. But then you also need to figure out how that falls into your own business. And yes, I'm sure it's going to work out.
Yeah.
We don't know yet what that's going to look like for your future.
Like my mom always says, everything happens for a reason and you should never worry about money because money will come and go.
Yep.
And so that's what I'm just like, yep.
Yeah. And sometimes your calculated risks are going to like just blow things out of the water and be, you know, exactly what you expected could be bigger and better than what you expected. They may also not work out, and that's okay. And that's where we really want to make sure that we're not apologizing too, because like you took the risk. And especially as entrepreneurs, because it's so scary and often it's our livelihood on the line, we hold back from taking risks so often because what if it doesn't work out? So I'm just going to play it safe, or I'm going to play it small.
You're worried of your image.
That too.
That's what my biggest thing right now is, that I'm worried of, again, I'm being very authentic, worried about your image, especially when you are a public business and you teach people how to be public businesses. Then I feel like I'm always apologizing for that, because I am worried that what if it does fail, then I somehow devalue myself in a weird way. I don't know if that makes sense, but
your own thoughts can make sense.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know.
But if that's the way that you feel,
Yeah.
then that's your valid feelings, right? Just because other people may not approach the same situation in the same way doesn't devalue your approach or your feelings towards it. But yeah, like for sure, you're out there and you're helping others. Same as me. Like I coach people, and I had this conversation the other day of like, I want to learn to show up a little bit more on like through my social media, or like even on the podcast and things like that, about the hard shit.
Yeah.
And when I'm struggling. But then I get this like little thing in my head that's like, well, you can't tell people that, because who's going to want to hire you as a coach if you're making mistakes and you're failing? But then I also flip the switch and I'm like, but if I'm not willing to take the risks and I'm not willing to fail, then who's going to want to hire me also? Yeah. So then I'm left where?
That's so true. Because I'm already kind of like going back on what I've been saying through our podcast and be like, am I being too honest? Should I apologize for being too honest? No, why am I apologizing for being too honest? Like, it might turn some people off, but then I'm just being myself. I don't know. I don't see that as a bad thing, because there's some people that are very surface value, you know, and I don't know. I'd rather connect on a deeper level. We're going way off the topic of Leanne Davies' article here, but
we're getting there though.
I just kind of wanted, because taking a calculated risk means so many different things when it comes to
things.
especially entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
What are some other things that she mentioned in the article?
She says not to apologize for doing what your business needs. And I love that.
That's awesome.
Right? It's like putting your business first does not make you a bad person. So as entrepreneurs, like if you've ever had to fire an employee, if you've ever had to fire a client, sometimes things just aren't working out.
Yeah.
And your business is your baby. It is your livelihood. And if you need to do something that's really hard or that other people may not understand, that's okay. And you don't need to apologize for it.
Totally.
And like, how confusing would it be to fire? So we'll use the example of a client firing a client, because that's more likely for us than because we don't have employees.
That's true.
Well, I do at the fishing, but that's different. So if you were to be like, I'm so sorry to have to do this, and, you know, you're really just taking away that, like, or making it awkward, because it's like, well, if you're sorry that you have to do it, then like, why are you doing it? And it doesn't really make sense. It muddies the message a lot. So it's just like, nope, like, this is what I need to do. Like, this client is like driving me crazy, or they're just not getting it, or they're not fulfilling their end of the commitment. So it's time for us to part ways. It's just simply having that conversation and saying, you know, we need to end this contract or end this working relationship, whatever that might be. Mm-hmm. But you don't need to apologize for it.
See, I love that. And it's funny because when we were doing the research for the podcast, I'm pretty sure I read an article where people, even if you say sorry, you think that you're doing a good thing by saying, I'm really sorry, I don't want to do this, and sorry. Mm-hmm. You think that it's lessening the blow, but in actuality, it's not. They don't actually, it's not authentic to them. They don't think that you're actually sorry.
They don't give a crap.
Yeah.
They're like, and it's just like, you're sorry.
Yeah. That, I guess it would devalue the sorry. Mm-hmm. It's not a sorry anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, when I read that, I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that perspective. That they're not taking it as an apology.
No.
At all.
No. And it might even be more of a slap in the face to them.
Yeah.
Because they know you're being inauthentic with it.
True.
So why even bother saying it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a tough one. Like, I remember, like, when I worked in corporate, like, I had to terminate employees at times, and I remember the first few times doing it, I was terrified. I felt so bad, even though I knew it's what needed to be done, because they just weren't hitting the expectations that we needed. They were given many opportunities and extra training and extra guidance, and it just wasn't working out. So I was like, okay, like, this is the last straw. This is what has to happen. And it's like, like, I was like shaky and like, just, it was, not good. But that's how we learn.
Yeah.
We take risks and we try new things and we just do it. So yeah, that's I love that one. So do not apologize for doing what your business needs. So whether it's parting ways with somebody, maybe, you know, I mean, it ties kind of with the calculated risk, saying that this too, but like taking on something new, you know, maybe you have to change suppliers for a product that you're creating because the margins are just going to be so much better with somebody else, but you've been working with this other supplier for a long time, you know,
you have
like
that loyalty, and you don't want to
sometimes like the bottom line, right? You just have to look at what's best to keep your business and yourself afloat.
Totally.
It doesn't need to mean you're a bad person. Don't steamroll people.
Yeah.
But there's just a way to do it. So
well, no, I think that's when you hear, I hate the saying because it just sounds so harsh, but it's just business. I hate it so much, but it kind of does have some factuality about it, because it is true. Sometimes it is just business, and it sucks sometimes. But yeah, why apologize for doing business?
Absolutely.
And especially, again, going back to like the female and how men aren't apologizing for doing their business. So why the F do we think we need to? Why?
Right? Silly.
Yeah.
Just silly. And then the last thing that Leanne talks about too is not apologizing for your success.
Ooh, that's that one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you worked hard for it and you deserve to own that and not be like, oh no, it was nothing, or, you know, it just comes naturally to me, you know, whatever.
Stop belittling yourself.
Absolutely.
You are worth so much more.
So much more. And, but it does come back to like, if you had any privilege in getting where you are, then name it and give back.
Yeah.
Right? So like, yes, like there's probably hard work in there too. But for some of us, I mean, you and I are both sitting here as white women.
Yeah.
So we've definitely have
so much privilege.
Yeah. So if that has been what's helped us to get to where we are, then what can we do to help others and to amplify the voices of others and whatnot, right? So
totally.
That's great to do that too, but we don't need to diminish ourselves in doing it also. We don't need to apologize for our existence just to give someone else that space.
Yeah. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. It's like a very easy to digest list of things that we don't need to apologize for, and like really amazing reminder too.
Totally.
Yeah. Loved it.
I think sometimes too, saying no really sucks. Nobody wants to say no.
Yes.
You want to be all there for that person and setting the boundaries for that person. Mm-hmm. And so often, again, I teach people or coach people like, hey, you need to, be there for your client and answer the questions you can, provide this free stuff over here. But then sometimes boundaries are broken, or sometimes you just have to say no as a person. Even in your personal life, if you don't want to go to a party because you just need some introspective time, and someone invites you out, not that we're going to parties, but you know what I mean?
Only small gatherings.
You always feel bad for saying no. So I feel like there's some alternatives out there. And I actually did find one on Instagram from the holistic psychologist, Dr. Nicole LaPera. She had some really cool alternatives that I'd love to like share, because this one I'm starting to implement too, because I, along with sorry and no, kind of go hand in hand for me, because I always sorry, no, I need to do this. Yeah.
Always, right?
Always.
Yeah, because you think you have to explain
why you're sorry, why you're saying no, and then also be sorry because you're saying no. Why is that?
Wow, mind blown.
So yeah, I really liked these. So for one of them, it's thank you for thinking of me, but I won't be able to make that. Or it sounds like a great time, I'm just committed to laying low this weekend. That one's huge, because
take the just out.
Yeah. Well, it's more like kidding. I just committed. Yeah.
Oh, I just committed.
Yeah. No, I am just. Yeah. That's the thing.
That's
it's
like ding, ding, ding.
Don't
trigger for me. Don't you dare say just.
We're gonna start like calling each other out viciously. People are like, why are you guys doing that?
We're aggressive. We own it.
The Taurus in me. Oh gosh. Another one is just saying no, thank you. And I literally commented, seems so freaking simple. Why don't we just do that? Why can't we just say no?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
No, thanks.
No, thanks. I'm good.
Wild.
What? Life-changing things over here, folks.
Yeah.
And the last one is, I have plans that night. I'll keep you posted if anything changes. I'm a little bit okay with that one, but at the same time, I'm thinking it from the perspective of I always would not like to get that feedback, because if I'm planning something, I'd kind of like to know numbers because I'm a planner.
Right.
So the whole I'll keep you posted is kind of leaving the other person up in the air.
Right.
But if you're really non-confrontational and saying no thank you is still a little bit too harsh, I guess that's a good alternative than saying no sorry, I'm doing,
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you could take it a step further too and try to like negotiate that agreement or something, saying, like, I'll keep you posted if anything changes, but I completely understand if my spot gets taken.
True.
In the meantime.
That's true.
Because then you don't put that awkward onus on either person then becoming anxious about, is there going to be a spot? Do I need to hold a spot? What am I going to do? Just kind of puts it out there, takes that pressure off. But those are great examples. I love that. So it's saying, it's really like appreciating and acknowledging the invite or the offer that's been given to you, but a nice solid way of declining without apologizing for whatever else it is, even if it's staying home on the couch.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would resonate with that, because it's like, how do you tell someone that you just want to stay home and lay on the couch instead of hang out with them? Like, sometimes that feels kind of harsh.
Right. Like, you don't want to be and like hang out with me? Why?
Yeah. What do you
But
mean?
guaranteed, like if you said, "Hey, Steph, I'm just really not feeling good this week," I'd be like, "Oh yeah, totally cool. You take care of you."
Yeah.
But it's just again, it's that whole subconscious what we think people are thinking,
Right.
but it's not that way.
It's not what they're thinking.
It's not what
we
they're thinking.
assume.
They
they're
probably
thinking.
like, oh, okay, that's cool, and then they'll go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Didn't want you to come anyway.
Oh man. Another thing is the I'm sorry versus like thank you. So instead of saying I'm sorry, thank people. That's another one that I've been kind of starting to implement more, and because there's more power in thank you. This one I'm doing so much, and I feel like it has actually changed not only like the way my clients possibly see me, but also how I see myself. Because again, from a subconscious perspective, if I'm constantly saying sorry, it's devaluing myself even more subconsciously, and it's going to lower my confidence. But if I'm saying, oh, thank you for thinking of that, I'm not apologizing. I'm just saying, oh, you brought that to my attention. That's really cool.
Right. Yeah, I like that.
And I actually, again, found another graphic, and I thought these were like really, really good because there's things that we always talk about.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, I'm sorry I'm always late, for you late people, I don't know what that's like. I'm never late.
Late?
Late? What is that?
I was late tonight. Did I say sorry when I got here?
No, I didn't know that you were late, so.
Okay.
Yes, win.
Cashew distracted us anyway.
I was going to say, he always distracts everyone. It's all good. But yeah, so instead of saying, I'm sorry I'm late, say, thank you for waiting for me. So easy.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of saying, I'm sorry for being so sensitive, say, thank you for being accepting of me.
That's really nice.
That one's huge, especially for you empaths out there, because I feel you. I feel you. Don't ever apologize for being you. Like I said, some people aren't going to like that, but just gotta,
Yeah, it's like, and I know we have more to go through on these too, but it's this is gonna feel really weird for people.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like if you're used to always apologizing for things, then like grant yourself some grace in changing the behaviors and know that it's not going to come naturally. You're going to mess it up. But even if you say it, like, so if you say sorry for being so sensitive, then be like, you can still add on, like, I really appreciate that you accept me. Or, like you can say them both. If you accidentally come out with the sorry first, you can still add it on. And then you're getting in the habit of like saying it out loud. Because I find when you're trying to change behaviors in speaking, actually saying the things helps.
Totally.
Yeah. It's going to be awkward.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I was gonna say I'm saying that I'm changing it, but I'm still a work in progress.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
it's a habit.
Yeah.
It's hard to change habits.
Yes. But not impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so a couple more that are on here too is like, I'm sorry I always mess up. So if you feel like you're always making mistakes or saying the wrong thing or doing whatever, then you can simply say, thank you for being patient when I make a mistake.
Yeah.
I think that's really
thank
beautiful.
you for catching that. I love that one. That's the one that I keep saying nowadays. And so thank you for catching that.
Right. Instead of, oh, I'm so sorry I missed that.
Yeah.
Ah, love that.
Yeah.
That's a great one. I'm sorry that you have to help me so much. Ooh. That's a good one. Right.
Yeah.
And then it's like, thank you for doing me a favor.
That one's huge.
Yeah. I think I could utilize that one.
I was going to put that in my pocket.
In the pocket it goes. Yeah. That's really cool. Cause it's, you're still like both ways. You're like acknowledging that the person is doing them, but it's not you diminishing your value. Like sometimes I'm really busy with work and stuff like that. And then Dave really picks up the slack around the house. And sometimes it's the other way around too. And that's fine. But instead of me saying like, oh, I'm sorry, I've been so busy lately, therefore been absent in this, it's like, wow, thank you so much for taking care of the household chores while I've had a lot more on my plate.
And think about what that does for relationships too. Because then it's like, again, shouting out your gratitude.
Yes.
As well when you do that, instead of saying, oh, sorry. It's just, again, it's in passing. It's not that impactful, but actually acknowledging when someone goes out of their way to do something for you too.
Yeah.
Thank you is just so much more powerful.
It is. And I feel like too, like saying sorry is making what you're doing bad. Right. So like if you're really busy for a while and you're apologizing for that, then subconsciously you're telling yourself that you shouldn't be that busy.
True.
And is that really a fact, or is that just the way that you're feeling because you're feeling guilty that you've been more absent, right? Like maybe you're doing, like, especially when you're running your own business and things are happening, like there are going to be weeks that are more heavy, and that's okay. And there's no reason that we have to say sorry for that.
It's so true.
Yeah. And you want to tell us our last one here, Steph?
Yeah, so this one, it's not really one that I have to worry about too much. But I do catch some of my friends saying this, and just because I like to listen, but I'm sorry for talking so much. And then all you have to say is just thank you for listening to me.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right? I like that one because so often we feel like, and it's true, we're kind of taught to listen to each other, and you don't want to always be the person talking. And it's true. There's a give and take when it comes to conversation, but thanking the person to even like, oh, thank you for actually listening to everything. That's huge.
It is. Yeah. Not
so
a
like,
lot
when I did the
that.
vent and said, I'm sorry for venting, I could have said, thank you for being such a great friend, which I am also starting to do nowadays. But
yes, you are. And I'm gonna look for that now when you say that, and I'm gonna just throw you this. I'm happy to listen to you, Steph. Yeah, that's interesting. But different relationships ebb and flow in different ways. But I think anyone listening to this podcast could probably take one of those 5 things and be able to switch their I'm sorry into a thank you.
Yeah.
In some way. Yeah. I love that. It's those excessive apologies just, they do something not just for how other people view us, but I think it also internalizes like us really truly believing that we're supposed to be apologizing. Yeah. Which is wild.
Totally. So I'm pretty sure Lisa had shared this on LinkedIn, and I took a screenshot of it, and it's sitting on my phone, and I really, really love it. And I kind of wanted to share it today because I found it really impactful, and it takes years as a woman to unlearn what you have been taught to be sorry about. And that was from Amy Poehler. And it is, again, because we are women, there is more of a tendency for us to say sorry. And that one was huge for me. And I just why am I saying sorry? I need to unlearn this.
That's a cool quote. I love that. That's a good one. It's, we have so much power and so much to offer to this world as individuals, as business owners, in every facet that we exist. So no more sorries. Yeah. And I'm committing to catching myself when I do it, because
and catching
each other and calling each other out in a gentle way. Yeah. Replacing the I'm sorries with thank yous, right? Like we can still show up and we can still exist, but we can do it without apology. And I think when we all come together and start doing that we're all going to show up in much more powerful ways. And we're going to be able to just do that much more because we're not holding ourselves back with these insecurities and this lack of confidence. And I'm like getting excited.
So excited to live in this world.
Like, I want this world to exist. So
do this.
I hope that others who are listening will commit to joining us in this this no more sorry commitment.
No more hustle, no more sorry.
Drop it.
Drop
it.
It's not helping
You don't
anybody.
need to apologize for being you. The only time you should say sorry is when
you actually did something bad.
You actually did something wrong. Don't apologize for being. So with that, I think we're going to wrap things up. Yeah.
And as always, we'd like to hear from you guys. Let us know what your guys' thoughts are.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, So sorry for taking up so much time tonight.
Oh, I'm just so sorry. Let's just get it out right now. Sorry,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
I am just I'm no expert, but.
Right. That's another one.
On that note, bye, guys.
Thanks so much. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Thriving Tides. Hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode.
follow us, Thriving Tides, on Facebook, Instagram, and now YouTube to stay connected. And remember, don't fight the rip currents.